Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Right, so in today's video we're going to be discussing a post by DNA 3000, which I really liked seeing this post because it is something that I have been saying for quite a while, but I do believe that a lot of people didn't take it seriously coming from me, given that my account size is quite large and that I typically do play at, C5, C4, C whatever level. And I don't really, have much problem getting into the Gladiator circuit or issues with matchmaking, because no matter how matchmaking is made, I will end up playing the strongest players in the world. And DNA 3000 basically did an experiment with his mini account, trying to get his mini account to Gladiator circuit in the last season when so many people play Battlegrounds like crazy. And also, we need to put some important, you know, how do you call it? How would you describe it? We need to establish a baseline of, how big his account was, how skilled he is overall, and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to be reading the entire post because it's absolutely massive. I will leave a link to this post in the description. I actually did read it. It is a wall of text, and we'll be focusing on a few areas. So first things first, DNA 3000 is a solid player, but he's not like amazing. And I don't think he will take like an offense to that. He's knowledgeable, he's experienced, he does have a big account that's pretty much filled with rank 4s, rank 5s, and 7 stars as his main account. So he's been around for a while, and he says I ended up bouncing between 60 and 140 rating, which this season would be in like Uru 3. So he's quite distant from, the top of the tier players. So it's quite important to acknowledge the fact that he's not insanely skilled, let's say. And then what was his account? So here we can see that his account looked like this, where, you'd say majority of the champions are 5 stars. As, rank 4s or rank 5s. He does have some rank 3s, I believe, in his deck, but, fairly low account, I would say. Again, if most of your deck is filled with 5 stars, it's not a big deck. Right. But this deck does end up making 2 Gladiator circuit. So how did he do it, and what was his experience? Again, his main account is crawling through 625 tab, and it's completely free to play. Doesn't use any cash on that account at all. Doesn't even really play monthly stuff religiously. Does some line stuff like that. Obviously, he's built it over time, but it would be a very, very relaxed type of player. If this, would be anybody's kind of like main account, it would be like bare minimum kind of time investment. But he really doesn't, chase or buy or do anything. As he says, it's not totally a trash deck, but it's certainly not a banger deck and really optimized for this meta. I didn't have luxury of doing BG focused rank ups, and it's basically whatever he has. And the most important thing is, he kind of like says getting from bronze to gold is a cakewalk for his alt account, because even though his deck is a mess, so is everybody else's and at strength level. And when more experienced player matches even stronger accounts that are less experienced, you do get the wins relatively easily, even if opponents do have bigger decks, because you can trap them. They don't necessarily have the best knowledge of drafting, deck building, or in-game mechanics themselves, so it's quite easy to catch them. And like a lot of players he observed, he hit a wall in Plat 2, where the protections were off. And this is like where the whole matchmaking kerfuffle starts, where everybody starts complaining about it. Because what happens is, effectively, Kabam switches off your protection in Platinum 2. If up until Plat 2, Kabam is guarding you from matching against much larger accounts the best they can, and obviously there will be exceptions to that. Then in Plat 2, you're basically on your own. You're going to be playing against anybody and everybody that's in there. That obviously means that you will not just match, Paragons, you'll also match the smallest accounts in there. And in Plat 2, he was matching decks about 5 times stronger than his. But this was still week 1 when he did that. And as soon as it became clear that I had hit the wall, I took a break for a whole 2 weeks. And the idea is that all these strong accounts I was facing were not going to be in Platinum 2 in 2 weeks. They would stomp on accounts like his and climb out of Platinum, from Platinum to Diamond or Gladiator Circuit in 2 weeks, and that was his experience. In Platinum 1 and Diamond last year on my main accounts, plus last season he probably means. Plus I was grinding milestones on my main, so he didn't really have time to play. But this is the crucial thing that I have said since season 1. Victory track is at its hardest on day 1. Every single passing day, you have the best and most capable and most active people exiting victory track. And as soon as they do, it means you can't match them. So, theoretically speaking, victory track is at its easiest, and it is at its easiest to enter Gladiator Circuit on the last day of the season, because vast majority of the players that are more capable than you will already be in Gladiator Circuit. So you don't need to worry about matching them. So day 1, victory track is going to be as hard as it comes, especially at the level of Plat 2, where protections are switched off. If you somehow make it to Plat 2 on like day 1 or day 3 with a relatively small account because you were quote-unquote protected, then as soon as you enter that, you're going to be matching the same people as I match normally. You're going to be matching the best players in the world. But then obviously they gradually, with every single passing day, enter Gladiator Circuit, and you don't need to worry about them. And then in week 2, let's say Mysterium 2 and 3 and 4 players enter Gladiator Circuit. And then, in week 3, you have like Quantum and Uru players enter Gladiator Circuit, so on and so forth. So with every single passing day, you get the most capable players basically exit the competition of victory track. And because of that, you face lesser and easier competition. So with 1 week to go, he returned to his account, and all these monster accounts gone. I was probably getting matchups that were rather randomly distributed. I got a couple of super strong accounts, probably stragglers joining late, because there will always be some people who just played relatively harsh, and and I got most of my matchups roughly near me, between slightly lower than me and about 2 to 3 times as strong. However, if you do match account that's about twice the size of yours, it's hard, but it's still winnable. And many of those strong accounts but zero skill in drafting are picking matchups again. Because if your deck is strong and your skill is high, what are you still doing in Platinum 2 in week 3? And finally, I got maybe 25% of my matches even lower than my account. I'm incredibly low. Because again, those people got there because they were protected before. And then he hit the wall again. I was getting spread of matchups in D2, and then nothing but Paragon and Legends with 7 stars all over the place in D1. My guess is Milestone Farmers, which is one, major thing why more people should be very unhappy about Milestone Farmers, because they refuse to play to the level of competition. They offset the entire progression for anybody that's, weaker or lower for them, and they shouldn't really be there. And they're going to say, yeah, they give away the free wins, but it doesn't change the fact that they will enable you the possibility of getting completely outmatched. And if they wouldn't be there, you wouldn't need the free wins from them to begin with. Probably some combination of weaker and stronger still working through Diamond, later starters, but obviously quite a lot of Milestone Farmers. So he took another break and returned to, basically 2 days before season end, and tried to see if the blockade had dissipated, and it had. And again, because even the most dedicated Milestone Farmers still want to get in the Gladiator Circuit, try and push their score up a bit and get some season rewards from Gladiator Circuit. So even the Milestone Farmers who screw up everything for everyone go up to Gladiator Circuit eventually, and once they do, then you have kind of a green light to try and move on. And he did. So how many matches did he take? He doesn't say, but this is just one anecdote. Obviously, everybody's experience are different. But first, is it possible for a Cav account to get to GC? Yes. not just possible, but with reasonable effect and skill, it is a realistic, achievable goal. Pretty good, and I would say my knowledge and experience is exceptional, but overall, I would say that I'm just a B plus BG competitor. I do not represent the bleeding edge of what's possible. If I can do it, I would say that our average player could do it possibly with more effort, but still. And I agree with him. And again, I'm not trying to try and trash talk DNA 3000. He's not a bad player by any means, but he's also far from the most amazing player. And that he by no means is, somebody like FinTech or whoever who just, crushes everything. Second, yes, the current BG matchmaker can put low cabs up against monster paragons for crushing losses, and yes, it can also put monster paragons up against low cabs for easy wins. But in general, this is not just a function of the matchmaker no longer protecting players from strong rosters. It is also a representative of the current state of the competition at the time. Single season is relatively short amount of time for the players to sort themselves from strongest to weakest. During the season, the strong players and the weak players are like waves in the ocean. They are rolling through the ladder at different times and different speeds. The surf is a lot rougher and more dangerous in week 1 than in week 3 or 4. Knowing this, players with weaker rosters can still navigate the tides by carefully pacing themselves. Every day, the competition within the tier will be different. Trying to blitz battlegrounds with a weak roster will have you getting washed up on the rocks somewhere, right? Because you keep matching stronger players. Riding the waves of competition will allow you to follow these waves up through the victory track ladder and much more competitively neutral way. Third, at the moment, the metagaming strategy is very important for low accounts in BG. BG is not a flat difficulty curve. It is in groups of players pushing their way through victory track. If you are slower than those groups, you can have a strong group players catch up to you and make your life miserable for a while until they flow past. And if you are faster than those groups, you can catch up to a strong group of players and then get bullied by them. But those groups are all constantly moving. If you feel where they are, a bit of meta gaming can allow you to pace yourself around them when you're in the middle of group of monsters. Take a break, basically. That's the time to take a break, let them go by. When you catch up to the monsters, slow down and wait for them to move on and follow in their wake. Competition is not just about beating up your opponent, it's also about understanding the competition as a whole, jockeying for position, picking your battles. And lastly, what does this mean for future seasons where one of the goals, I think if it was ended for season 10, but I will believe it when I see it, is staggering them. So basically the seeding at the beginning. In other words, start stronger players higher and weaker players lower, so that the weaker players are less likely to be forced to match up against them. I think it will help a bit, but this experience has also taught me that most of the low players that were running into monster accounts were outracing the tide, so to speak. They were trying to blitz wins fast and catching up with slower monsters ahead of them. Giving high progress players head start will mitigate this, but not, I think, eliminate this. Especially because those head starts will also pace those against each other in higher tiers, slowing their progress. So while stagger will initially separate the players to slow down in the higher tiers and unmitigated acceleration in the lower tiers, might cause a collision at the same, perhaps just slightly higher in tier 1. In tier plat 1 or D3 perhaps. Something to watch out when this feature arrives. And yeah, it's effectively the base thing. And the biggest takeaway here is something that, again, I have been saying from the very first season, and I think a lot of people still have not quite listened to it, because every time you get a mismatched account, you run to the forum and complain about it. The point is, if you have a relatively smaller account, you have to pace yourself in victory track or you will have a miserable time. If you are doing it the smart way, with rushing to Gladiator circuit is the privilege of the big accounts and the most capable players. And if you're not one of them, you need to accept the fact that there are some limitations in the speed you can achieve Gladiator circuit, not whether you can. If you have, a somewhat decent account, you are capable of making Gladiator circuit for sure. Some effort, some grind, some losses, some wins, of course. Just the main question is when you try to do it. Because let's say you have a count with like, 2 rank 5s and, relatively small accounts, something like that. You're going to try and do it day 1, you're going to be outmatched all the time. If you're going to try and do it in day 2, you're going to be outmatched. Day 3 still, day 4 still, 5 still. But if you're going to, try to enter Gladiator Circuit in like week 2 or 3, you probably can make it. And the smaller your account is, comparatively speaking, the slower you should take it. And somebody's probably going to disagree with this perspective, but I do agree because, your account is part of your ability in this game. And that's how the competition works. And that's one of the things that I enjoy about Battlegrounds, because it is overall the best kind of measurement of your overall ability in the game, in between your roster, in between your skills, in between your, gameplay and strategy and everything else. And sometimes it sucks to hear that you're not the best test in the world, and there are a lot of people who can't stomach that. And or sometimes it just sucks to see that you maybe haven't played for long enough, or you haven't built your account enough, even though you are, let's say, skilled ahead of your curve. But this isn't Mortal Kombat or Counter-Strike. All the time and effort and everything else that you have put in your account does matter. This does feel much shittier to say after last July 4th, because that single sale literally, offset the entire top-end progress that I made in this game. But still, the point is that, yeah, if you have a smaller account but you are capable, you can still get in Gladiator Circuit. For sure. It's just you might not be able to do it quickly. And I like that post because it's, in my opinion, a very, very, very solid, concrete example where, quite knowledgeable, quite skilled player with, in my opinion, very small account makes it to the Gladiator Circuit and does it by using his brain, and does it basically by doing exactly what I have been advising players to do from the first season: to pace themselves and understand that the competition in Battlegrounds gets weaker by every passing day. So instead of trying to rush through victory track, then running to forums and complaining that you get mismatched about every single thing and time, and that it's impossible, you can take it easy, chill, save yourself some nerves, and still get where you're trying to go. I think it's the impatience that's the biggest thing here. Anyways, as I said, I'll leave a link to this entire post. Let me know what you guys think about this entire situation and Battlegrounds and matchmaking and so on and so forth. And I will catch you guys later. Bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about